Good afternoon and welcome to the City Council meeting of July 2nd, 2024. I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask that you all rise for the singing of our national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God, keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you to the National Film Board for the images of our country and to our very own Tennille Towns for the singing of our national anthem. Now I'd like to take the opportunity to read our land acknowledgement. The city respectfully acknowledges the Beaver Cree, Dene, and Métis people as the original caretakers of these lands and surrounding areas. We are grateful to live, learn, work, and play on traditional Treaty 8 traditional territory within Turtle Island and acknowledge these lands have been home to diverse and sovereign First Nations and Inuit nations since time immemorial. Thank you for that. Moving on to the adoption of the previous council minutes and recognizing Councillor Bressie.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I would move that council adopt the minutes of the City Council meeting held June 17th as presented.
That motion is in order, so I'll call the question. Please vote. And that carries unanimously. Moving on to the adoption of today's agenda recognizing Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I'd like to move council adopt the agenda with the addition of item 7.2, board member appointments.
All right, that motion is in order, so I'll call the question. And that also carries unanimously. There are no delegations today. And just a reminder, for those who might be watching online, delegations happen at 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. if we are having an evening session, which today we are. However, you just need to fill out a really simple form online to let us know you're coming ahead of time, and we will get you in the schedule. Moving on to reports, item 7.1. The Bylaw C-1475, the Borrowing Bylaw, and Bylaw C-1476, the Lending Bylaw. I will turn this over to the CAO for introductions. Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. The city's received a request from the nonprofit Maskwa Medical Center for a 3-year, $3.5 million interest-free loan. Proceeding with first reading today would allow us to begin the notification process and to bring this back to council for second and third reading once that notification is complete. This is as part of their funding model to get some seed money as they secure other funding sources to begin construction as soon as possible. The county and the MD have had the same requests and have already proceeded with this first reading process with their respective councils, and our recommendation is to give first reading to these two bylaws today.
Right, so opportunity for questions for administration, and then I'll go to business arising. I think you're for business, Councillor Blackmore. Seeing no one with questions for administration, recognizing Councillor Blackmore.
I move that council give first reading to bylaw C-1475, being the Maskwa Medical Center borrowing bylaw.
So that motion is in order. Opportunity for discussion or debate.
Not on first reading.
You are correct. My apologies. So no discussion or debate on first reading. So that is just first reading here today. So I'll call the question. Please vote. Councillor O'Connor, how do you vote? There we go. And that carries unanimously. Councillor Blackmore.
I would move that council give first reading to bylaw C1476, being the Maskwa Centre lending bylaw.
That motion is in order. No discussion or debate on first reading, so I'll call the question. Please vote. And that too carries unanimously. Moving on to item 7.2. I will look to council for business that may be arising. They're in transition of some of our external committees and community committees. There are some new positions being appointed, a couple changes there, so I'll look to business arising. Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I'd like to move council appoint Bobby Dawson as chair of the Grande Prairie Airport Commission for a term ending December 31st, 2024.
Perfect. Thank you for that. So that motion is in order, and that's the chair of the Grande Prairie Airport Commission as indicated. Call the question. Please vote. I'm going to recognize, that carries unanimously, and I'll go to Councillor Blackmore next.
I would move that council appoint Councillor Leanne Beaupre as the County of Grande Prairie representative to the Grande Prairie Public Library Board effective January 1st, 2024 to October 30th, 2025.
That motion is in order. No discussion or debate. No one in the queue, rather, for discussion or debate, so I'll call the question. Please vote. All right, and recognizing Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. I move the council rescind the appointment of Tammy Brown to the Community Advisory Committee.
That motion is in order, so I will call the question. And that carries unanimously. Moving on to committee business. First item of business today from the Public and Protective Services Committee meeting held June 25th. I'll turn this one over to Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I'd like to have council adopt the minutes of the Public and Protective Services Committee meeting held June 25th as presented.
Perfect. Thank you for that. That motion is in order. Seeing no one in the queue for discussion or debate, I'll call the question. And it's carried unanimously. Councillor O'Connor, any highlights from your meeting?
Yes, I have a couple of highlights. First, in sports development, Water Polo Canada is bringing a development camp to the city, as water polo is an Olympic sport and wonderful to play. I have played it myself. I know how to do the egg beater, so it's available to all sports. I'm hopefully that we can have more people come out and rejuvenate the sport of water polo. Very exciting to watch, and there's a lot of action going underneath the water that we don't need to talk about.
All right, keep going.
That's all I've got today.
Okay, thank you for your highlights, Councillor O'Connor. Moving on to the item 8.2, the Operational Services Committee meeting, also held June 25th, and I'll turn this one over to Councillor Thiessen, who's not here. So Councillor Blackmore, if you wouldn't mind doing this one.
I move council adopt the minutes of the Operational Services Committee meeting held June 25th as presented.
Thank you for that. That motion is in order. Seeing no one in the queue, I'll call the question. And that carries unanimously. Any highlights from the meeting, Councillor Blackmore?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Clayton. Engineering tells us that the tender for reconstruction of Maskwa tennis and basketball courts and access trail have been posted, and the tender for traffic signals rehabilitation has been closed. Under Parks and Environment, administration is conducting rink site improvements, and administration is assisting with local parades. and they did a bang-up job yesterday. Transportation preparations for the Canada Day Parade are now complete, as the parade is over. And the first round of residential street sweeping is now complete, and industrial areas are now being focused on. And that concludes my report.
Thanks for that. Moving on to item 8.3, Strategy and Communication Services Committee held on June 25th. And I'll turn this one over to Councillor O'Toole for introduction.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. I move the council adopt the minutes of the Strategy and Communication Services Committee meeting held June 25th as presented.
Perfect. That motion is in order. Seeing no one in the queue, I'll call the question. Please vote. And that carries unanimously. Councillor O'Toole, you had one item of business today.
Yes, it's regarding the strategic priorities progress update. And as of May 2nd, Council adopted the City of Grande Prairie Strategic Plan for 2022 through 2025. And March 11th, we had a council meeting and approved the council advocacy priorities to include the following: electricity distribution costs, healthcare supports, medical first aid response funding, also Northwestern Polytech support, provincial and federal funding for housing needs, and other advocacies, improved rail service, provincial changes to automatic traffic enforcement, and immigration biometric scanning. And at that, we've gone through some other items that we would like to talk about here. The following projects and initiatives have been completed to date: Truth and Reconciliation Report, Road Structure Review, Sport Tourism Function, Business Case, Bike Park at Crystal Lake, Transit Redesign, Implementation, Public Security Unit Proposal, Current State of Policing Assessment, Stormwater Utility Model Options, Enterprise Resource Planning, System Implementation, Branding and Image Strategy, Coordinated Care Campus, Supportive Housing Project, and Affordable Housing Action Plan. Also, we had the Municipal Development Plan, Livable Neighborhood, Land Use Policy, Outdoor Space Enhancement, Recreation Culture Strategy, Land Inventory Gap Analysis, Cybersecurity Strategy, Rent Affordability Options, Neighborhood Amenities, Benefit-Driven Procedures, Comparative Energy Study Review, Hughes Lake Servicing Strategy, Labor Market Study, Recommendations, and Beautification and Entrance Landscaping Projects Proposals. And I would just like to receive this report for information.
All right. Thanks for your update. I just wanted to recognize that for those who might be watching online, the strategic plan status update is a really well-designed, easy to navigate package. This document, as Councillor O'Toole updated, contains the significant work that Council's been working with administration on over the past almost 3 years, and it identifies our priorities and where we are to date on those. So thank you for the package. I think it's a great document for Council to share and for people to access online. So that motion is in order. Seeing no one else in the queue, I'll call the question. And that carries unanimously. Councillor O'Toole, any highlights from your meeting?
Well, our census was due on yesterday, I guess, and I was just wondering if we were sitting at in the 70s percentage, and I was just wondering how we over the week that we had the meeting, where we're sitting now.
I'm just going to turn that over to our CAO for an update.
Actually, I'll just ask our clerk as she has the latest information for us.
Ms. Hanson?
Thank you through the mayor to Councillor O'Toole. So we are sitting about 81% complete right now, and we are continuing with enumeration in the next 2 weeks to bring us over the 90% and hope for that 95% threshold that we need to meet. So watch in your neighborhoods. We'll have many enumerators out there collecting information.
Thank you very much. And once again, the more people that we get to fill out this, the more funding we get from both provincial and federal funding. So those numbers are very important for our budget at the end of the day. Thank you very much, and that's my report.
All right. Thanks for that, Councillor O'Toole. Moving on to item 8.4, the InvestGP committee meeting held June 25th. I'll turn this one over to Councillor Blackmore.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I would ask Council to adopt the minutes of the InvestGP committee meeting held June 25th as presented.
Motion is in order. Seeing no one in the queue for discussion or debate, I'll call the question.
Councillor Bosch in favor.
And that carries unanimously. Councillor Blackmore, you had one item of business today.
Yes, I'd ask Council to direct administration to negotiate and execute a lease with the telecom company with terms and conditions satisfactory to the city solicitor and the city manager. And in speaking to this motion, this is for a telecom tower to be erected in the Richmond industrial area at the city service center. So there is some potential revenue for the city for that tower, and it is well positioned away from residential areas, so it will have very little impact on residents of the city.
So that motion is in order. Opportunity for discussion or debate. Seeing none, I'll call the question. And that carries unanimously. Councillor Blackmore, any highlights from your meeting?
In economic development, administration has supported the lease of the Dave Bar space to create more childcare spots in the city. Connecting the Dots Foundation, which opened this spring, currently has 64 spots filled. And between June 3rd and 17th, 5 new home and 3 new commercial businesses have opened in the city. City administration continues to actively reach out to local businesses through our business visitation program and appreciate the opportunity to engage and have fruitful conversations with our local business community. The Rural Renewal Stream Community Partnership had their monthly meeting and approved 16 new employer applications for 27 positions. Follow-up surveys for employers and candidates will take place. Under events and entertainment, the Storm 24-25 season schedule has been released, and the home opener will take place on September 13th, and that game will be against Whitecourt Wolverines. In addition, the past month of June has seen a lot of people go through the Burnett Centre with the Grande Prairie Powwow, hosting over 3,000 people for dancing, hand games, food, and vendors. Some upcoming events include Canada Day Parade. Of course, we saw that yesterday with seriously over 20,000 people. There was huge numbers turn out for that, which was wonderful. We will have the Grand Comic Con July 12th to 14th, Rotary Rib Fest July 19th to the 21st, at the same time as Grande Prairie Street Performers Festival. We will see the Heritage Day on August 3rd, and the Storm Hockey Main Camp will run August 23rd to 25th. And Experience GP, the Downtown Festival, will happen on August 30th this year, and the Nighthawk Comedy Night fundraiser will be held September 21st. The Professional Bull Riders event will take place September 27th and 28th. And Tennille Town's Things That Brought Me Here tour is for November 19th. And there were some limited tickets available. I think that they're probably sold out by now, but I'm not sure. That's everything.
Perfect. Thanks for your update, Councillor Blackmore. Moving on to item 8.5, the Financial Administration Services Committee meeting held June 25th, and I'll look to Councillor Plott for introduction.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I just move that Council adopt the minutes of the Financial Administrative Services Committee held June 25th as presented.
Thanks. That motion is in order. I'll call the question. Please vote. And that carries unanimously. Any highlights from your meeting, Councillor Plott?
Yeah, we had a pretty brief meeting. We had Mr. Smith step in as our acting chief, and so he reminded us that I guess as of now our property taxes were due, and so unfortunately for those that haven't paid as of the June 30th, they will be looking at a 6% penalty for that. Under financing, work is underway with the departments for mid-year capital requests, and administration continues to work through budget activities and various reporting with departments. With procurement, there were 4 bids currently on the market, and GIS and IETS, the replacement of the corporate printers started last week with the support of the successful RFP candidate and will continue for the next few weeks until completion. 2024 satellite imagery now available through public GIS online viewers. That's my report.
Thanks for that, Councillor Plott. Moving on to item 8.6, the Council Committee of the Whole meeting held June 25th, and I'll recognize Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I'd like to move Council adopt the minutes of the Council Committee of the Whole meeting held June 25th as presented.
That motion is in order. Seeing no one in the queue, I'll call the question. Please vote. And that carries unanimously. So there's no items of correspondence today and no delegation business, no notices of motion. We will now take our recess and be back at 6 o'clock. Thanks, everyone. Good evening and welcome back to the City Council meeting of July 2nd, 2024. We are in our evening session of council. There are no delegations today. And a reminder, if you're looking to be a delegation at City Council, it's a very simple online form. You can pick a 3 o'clock session, and if we are having an evening session, that is an opportunity as well. There is no unfinished business, so we're going to move right into public hearings. We have one public hearing tonight. 2 public hearings tonight, my apologies. I'm going to call this public hearing to order and look to the introduction of administration. I turn it over to Ms. Downing. All right, go ahead, Mr. Babalola.
Good evening to the Mayor. The report before us today is a proposal to amend the land use bylaw, radio communication and broadcasting facility. On May 14 of this year, the Invest GP Committee directed administration to take forward to Council an amendment to the land use bylaw to emphasize Council's preference for proponents to employ camouflage design techniques for telecommunication towers and to improve public notification requirements regarding the placement of telecommunication cell towers. The city's land use bylaw currently encourages the use of camouflage techniques, and the proposed bylaw, however, emphasizes Council's preference for the use of these camouflage techniques when proposing a cell tower in an area that is considered to be a high-profile or sensitive area, such as high visibility area or in a close proximity to residential developments. And this was intentionally drafted to not make it a standard requirement for all proposed cell towers, but to allow the committee to determine on a case-by-case basis. The other changes that's being proposed in this amendment concern providing more notification to the residents, especially the owners of land closer to the proposed location. The draft bylaw will require the cell tower proponent to place a sign on the subject property to notify the landowners in the neighborhood about the proposed cell towers. The size of the sign will be a minimum of 8 by 4 feet. Secondly, the proponents as we have it now, the proponents are currently required to circulate the development proposal to landowners within 3 times the height of the proposed tower. This amendment maintains these requirements, but also adds that the development officer will now circulate the notification package to all residential property owners within 6 times the proposed tower height. And this is done to reflect the current practices. These improvements aim to ensure residents are better informed about proposed cell towers installation in their neighborhood. For today's public hearing, we have advertised according to the requirements of the NG and the land use bylaw. Administration did not receive any response. It is recommended that Council gives 3 readings to bylaw C1260181, being an amendment to the land use bylaw. And with this, I can take questions. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks for your introduction. And just 1 second here. My agenda was updating rather. So, opportunity for questions for administration, recognizing Councillor Blackmore.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. So I'm not opposed to shrouding cell towers, but I have noticed when I'm in other communities where cell tower shrouding has been common for a number of years, the shrouding frequently is not maintained, and it doesn't take very long before it looks much worse than if it wasn't there at all. I'm wondering if there's any opportunity to build into the bylaw some kind of requirement for maintenance of the shrouding. Of course, communications telecom companies will maintain the dish and the tower itself because that's where they're making their money. But shrouding is sometimes or often not maintained. Do you know of any other bylaws any other communities that have tried to monitor this or done anything to encourage maintenance of shrouding?
Through the Mayor. I'm not aware of any community that is that has put it in their bylaw or any of their policies that it should be maintained, because this is not the cell tower is regulated by the ISED, which is kind of federal, and so we can only encourage them to make to use the camouflage techniques, but mandating them or requiring them to maintain it is something we may need to look into.
I noticed in the bylaw that it's not a cut and dried bylaw. It's an encouragement rather than a statement of fact. So I'm wondering if we could include a line that would encourage maintenance of shrouding as well.
Ms. Downing?
Thank you. I'll just expand on that. This is different than any other section of our land use bylaw where we actually issue a development permit. And if we issue a development permit, we can have conditions attached. And if they don't meet our conditions, they're in contravention of our development permit. In this case, we're basically just providing a letter of support for them to apply to the federal government for approval to do this. So we're not giving the permission, and we don't have the authority to hold them responsible for anything through the process. However, if they're putting the tower on city land, we sign a lease agreement with them, and through that, we could certainly, not extend the lease or work through the lease agreement to ensure that the tower is maintained. And we could look into what other municipalities might be doing when it's on private land, and if there's, direction, we can figure out with the federal government through their approval what's involved, and we could bring back more information about how that could be done.
It is a concern. I'm not going to vote against the policy coming forward tonight. I'm going to support that, but it is a concern as we move forward that we may get more than we bargained for.
Thanks for your comments. Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Clayton. I loved the slide that you initiated because there was a number of different ideas around shrouding that I wasn't familiar with. I'm just curious, is there a process for determining an appropriate shroud? Again, because having been in Arizona, they have cactuses, which would not apply here. So I'm just kind of curious, is there a process where we have some input or direction or guidelines on what types of shroud we would like in our community?
Mr. Babalola?
Yeah, through the mayor. This is, yes, there is a process, and that's why we didn't really make it a standard, but we use the word encourage, so that when we have a proposal to locate it in a place where we feel that shrouding will be needed, we bring it to the committee, and then we can bring the proponents in for discussion. Then we can tell them like what we want. But the idea behind shrouding is for it to blend into the environment. Thank you.
All right. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. I just got a question here. Technology changes on these towers quite often, different processes. We went from so-and-so to 5G, and is there a process if they want to extend the height of the tower or the configuration of the tower that they have to come back here to get permit or discuss it?
Mr. Babalola?
Through the mayor. So I'm not very sure on this, but my guess is if they want to increase the height, they will go through the whole process again, because when they're applying through ISED or when they apply to ISED, they will tell what height they want to. And for especially with NAV Canada and Transport Canada, they need approval for the particular height and the height of the tower they want to. So if they are increasing that, I want to believe that they will go through them again, and maybe they will have to come again to the city for approval or support. Thank you.
All right. So I see no further questions for administration. I will now ask if there's anyone here to speak in support of this bylaw amendment. I will ask a second time if there's anyone here or online to speak in support of Land Use Bylaw Amendment C-1260-181. And a third time if there's anyone here in support to speak in support of this Land Use Bylaw Amendment. Seeing no one, I will now ask if there's anyone here or online to speak in opposition to the Land Use Bylaw Amendment C-1260-181. And a second time to see if there's anybody here or online to speak in opposition to this Land Use Bylaw Amendment. And a third time to see if there's anyone in the chambers or anyone online to speak in opposition to Land Use Bylaw Amendment C-1260-181. Seeing none, I will now close this public hearing and look to business arising, recognizing Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. I move that council give 3 readings to bylaws C-1260-181 being an amendment to the land use bylaw.
Perfect. Thank you for that. That motion is in order. No discussion or debate on first reading. Call the question. Please vote. Councillor Plott votes in favor, and that carries unanimously. Councillor O'Toole.
Yeah. I move the council give second reading to bylaw C-1260-181 being an amendment to the land use bylaw.
So this is an opportunity for second reading. The motion is in order. An opportunity for discussion or debate on second reading. Seeing no one, I'll call the question on second reading of bylaw C-1260-181. Please vote. And that too carries unanimously. Councillor O'Toole.
I move the council, what's the wording here?
Have
Third reading at this meeting.
So this is a motion to have third reading at this meeting. In order for us to have third reading tonight, this must pass unanimously. So I'll call the question on having third reading of bylaw C-1260-181 at this meeting. And that carries unanimously. Councillor O'Toole.
I move the council have third reading of bylaw C-1260-181.
Give.
Now you got me confused, I feel.
Council's going to give third reading now.
Hey, council give third reading to bylaw 1260-181 being an amendment to the land use bylaw.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Councillor O'Toole. That motion is in order. Seeing no one in the queue with discussion or debate, I'll call the question on third reading. Please vote. And that carries unanimously. Moving on to item 15.2, Land Use Bylaw Amendment C-1260-182. And I'll turn this one over to Mr. Babalola. Sorry, I apologize. I will call this public hearing to order and look to an introduction from administration. Mr. Babalola.
Thank you, Mayor. Administration has initiated this proposed bylaw amendment to revise the residential driveway requirements in the land use bylaw. The proposal is brought forward as an attempt to integrate the findings from the city conducted transportation functional studies into the land use bylaw, especially as it pertains to direct vehicular access from arterial roads to residential development sites. There is no previous council or committee direction on this bylaw amendment. This proposed amendment will create a new section in the land use bylaw, residential driveway. The new section will contain the general requirements for residential driveway for all residential districts, while other district-specific requirements will continue to be listed under the applicable districts. The main change to the land use bylaw in this amendment is the introduction of access control on our arterial roads. To reduce congestion and traffic delay and encourage the transportation system's safety and efficiency, this amendment will limit vehicular access from arterial roadways to residential development sites to only the sites with no other alternatives than to directly connect to the arterial roadways. And this is especially in the case of established neighborhoods. Existing driveways that connect directly to arterial roads will remain but may not be widened or relocated. And in the case of a demolished building, an existing driveway that connects directly to an arterial road may be lost when there are other alternatives like backlane access. New neighborhoods shall be planned to ensure that there are no direct vehicular access from residential development sites to arterial roads. And the public hearing for this land use bylaw amendment was advertised following the MGA and the LUB requirements. Also, we notified the UDI, and they had questions that had been clarified. No comment or response was received from the public. It is recommended that Council give 3 readings to bylaw C-1260-182, being an amendment to the land use bylaw. And with this, I can take questions. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Mr. Babalola. Opportunity for discussion or debate. Sorry, my apologies. Opportunity for questions for administration. Recognizing Councillor O'Connor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clayton. Just a little bit clarity of why this is coming forward. Is there something missing that we haven't done before? And do you have an example of one where it's been required?
Mr. Babalola.
Through the mayor, yes, there was, excuse me, there was a recent development, and the developer had come up with a development permit to build a fourplex along 100 Avenue, and we had denied access to the arterial roadway. And so this was because, based on functional study, the road had been widened, and it was recommended to limit the direct access to that arterial road. But because there is a gap between the land use bylaw and this functional study report, that kind of created some confusions there, and this is what we're trying to tidy up at this point. Thank you.
That's great. That's what I thought it referred to. I just wanted clarity. Thank you very much.
All right. Other questions for administration? Recognizing Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Clayton. So in my mind, I'm going through areas that could possibly be affected by this, and the only thing that I can come up with is the 4 blocks that we're talking about on 100th between 92nd and 96th. Again, down by East Side Groceries. Is there any other areas of the city that might be affected by this that you can think of?
Mr. Babalola.
Through the mayor. Yeah, those are the main area for now. And we currently have not identified other areas, but in case they come up, this bylaw amendment will cover those. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Blackmore.
So my understanding, Mr. Babalola, that any new development would require a lane behind residential, that they would need to access parking via the lane.
Through the mayor. So what we are saying by this bylaw is that the ones that are already existing, they will remain as they are. But in the, for example, that one that kind of initiated this whole process, if something like that comes up again, we will not encourage, especially if it is a fourplex now, we will not encourage a direct access to an arterial road when and if you can connect through other means. We're not saying that they must have back lanes, but if there is a lane.
So if any of those lots redevelop, they would not have front yard access.
That's correct, yes.
And they do have backyard lanes, so that's not a restriction that is punitive.
That's correct.
Any other development in the city that is new, we would just ensure that that's the way it's built from the get-go. Okay.
Through the mayor, yes.
Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is in regards to an area like the north side of Royal Oaks, so 128th Ave, 129th Ave in front of St. Catherine's School, that whole area where all the houses have not been built to the property, the open space property there. And that is a busy street and getting busier all the time, especially with new housing and such going in. All of that leads right directly to the busy road, all the driveways. are those exempt because there is a development plan already in place in areas like that?
Mr. Babalola?
Through the mayor, please, I want to read what we have here.
Where did you say, Councillor Bosch?
There's a lot of.
Okay, so through the mayor, section 69A2 of the proposed bylaw reads that driveways must connect to an arterial road or must not connect to an arterial road or a collector road unless, in the opinion of the development authority, there is no practical alternative method or vehicular access to the site. So by this, what we're saying is, if there are other means, we will explore those other means. But if there are no other means, if the only practical way is to connect to these routes, then it will be approved.
Well, to me, that sounds exactly what the people on 100 Ave were asking, because there's no other means.
Through the mayor, they had other means because they had the lane access.
At the back.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I just don't want to see things changing for people who are putting new development in something already existing. I can understand infill, but I'm just want to make sure that, things aren't changed on the fly for somebody who's, midway through.
Bylaws don't change on the fly, first of all. All right. Recognizing no one else in the queue for questions for administration, I will give it one more second. Any more questions for administration? Seeing none, I'll move on and ask if there's anyone here to speak in support of Land Use Bylaw Amendment C-1260-182. A second time, if there's anyone here or online to speak in support of the Land Use Bylaw Amendment. And a third time, to see if there's anyone here to speak in support or opposition of the Land Use Bylaw Amendment C-1260-182. Seeing none, I will ask if there's anyone here or online to speak in opposition of the Land Use Bylaw Amendment. And a second time, to see if there's anyone to speak in opposition of Land Use Bylaw Amendment C-1260-182. And a third time, to see if there's anyone here or in the chambers, or online rather, to speak in opposition of Land Use Bylaw Amendment C-1260-182. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and move to business arising, recognizing Councillor Blackmore.
I'd move that Council give first reading to Bylaw C-1260-182 being an amendment to the Land Use Bylaw.
Thank you for that. That motion is in order and there's no discussion or debate on first reading, so I'll call the question. That carries unanimously. Councillor Blackmore.
I move second reading of Bylaw C-1260-182.
Thank you for that motion. That motion is in order. Discussion or debate on second reading. Seeing no one in the queue, call the question on second reading. And that carries unanimously. Councillor Blackmore.
I'd move that Council have third reading of this bylaw at this meeting.
It's a motion to have third reading here tonight. In order for us to have third reading here tonight, it must pass unanimously. Seeing no one in the queue, I'll call the question. And that too carries unanimously. Councillor Blackmore.
I'd move third reading of Bylaw C-1260-182 being amendment to the Land Use Bylaw.
That motion is in order. I'll call the question on third reading. And that carries unanimously. Thank you for coming tonight. Moving to delegation business, there was none. Moving to council member reports, starting with Councillor Bressie.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Clayton. A few things that I got to attend was another day of cost-sharing negotiations with Mayor Clayton and Councillor Plotz. So it's great to sit down with our county colleagues and figure out how we're going to work together to deliver services that enhance the lives of all of our residents. So I always appreciate those opportunities. I got to attend a policy and governance committee meeting for the police commission. So it's fun work being over there and figuring out what the service is going to look like as we move forward to being the police jurisdiction. And excuse me. First time event for me was the KMSC Cornhole Tournament. It was, I only got to stay for a couple hours before I had to go, but I got to volunteer at one of the booths and referee for a few teams. And holy smokes, there were some highly skilled cornhole players and some very unskilled cornhole players there. But it really was fun seeing about a dozen and a half charities all there, getting to know people in our community, having funds raised for them. So thank you so much to KMSC for organizing that and all the other organizations that supported it. And if you haven't checked out that event before, it's a fun one. You should get it on your calendar next year.
Thanks for your update, Councillor Bessie. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. I attended the grand opening of the Connecting Dots Daycare. Also, later that day, we had a meeting with the Grand Spirit Foundation. Recreation and culture cost sharing. I sat in on Zoom and listened to a bunch until the sound went dead, but I was pretty impressed with how the relationship was on the radio or the TV, cell phone. Also, I attended the Special Olympics Grande Prairie meeting, council coffee break with the Alberta Health Services staff, and meeting with council and the U of A. I also attended, we don't normally do this, but I attended the celebration of life for a strong member of this community, the region and the province, Mr. El Said. He passed away late last year. But anyhow, it was jam-packed. Also attended the air show meeting and the Aquaterra sharing information and monthly policing commission meeting and experienced officer graduation. And I also attended the 5th annual traditional powwow, the grand entry. I did that twice, the Friday night and the Saturday, and I think actually 3 times Sunday. As well, I attended the 5th annual Bunnock tournament. Those that were there with me, Councillor Blackmore and Michael Connor and Chris Thiessen. So the guys that I didn't call out, next year it's your turn. It was a good time. And it was a fundraiser for the Grande Prairie Fire Department charity of choice. And on another note, I attended a combative sport event at the Terra Center, and we weren't actually involved. It was kind of nice to watch an event. And the reason we weren't involved, it was boxing and amateur Muay Thai event. So we went there to see how things were coordinated, and I think they pulled off a pretty good event. And that's my report.
Thanks for that, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the Storm Board meeting, and once again, remember that their home opener is September 13th against the Whitecourt Wolverines. So there'll be lots to do and lots to check out with hockey. Just a couple points for them over the year. They overall had a good year. Their summer camp saw 350 registered participants. Their school winter break and winter programs saw 255 registered participants, and their spring hockey program had 502 players try out. So overall, a really good year. They participated with increasing our sport tourism to our city, and just a note that the hundreds of hours of volunteers through the hockey team. The boys visited 22 schools over last year, so a great community supporter. I attended the Sport Connection AGM, and they're also increasing. They've done a lot of work on their social media presence, website presence. Some advocacy that they do is increasing true sport and safe sport in the region, equity and diversity and inclusion in sport, Try It Days, things like that. So another great organization. Again, as Councillor O'Toole said, the Aquaterra information sharing to shareholders. That's always good to learn about what's happening in that organization. I attended the Grande Prairie Regional Tourism AGN at the Philip J. Currie Dinosaur Museum. So that's always good to get out there and talk about regional tourism, inclusion of big and small, and how many attractions we have overall in this region. I attended the CAB, the Canadian Alliance Board of Housing and Homelessness Committee meeting, and attended the Grande Prairie Police Service Experience Officers ceremony. So welcome to our 5 new highly qualified officers coming into our region. Stakeholder meeting for the Grande Prairie District Chamber of Commerce, and there we had the Chief of Police, Chief Lacusta, explain, where we're at with the transition, and just a lot of information on the path forward. I had the opportunity to, this is the first time, do the grand entry for the annual powwow, both times on Saturday, and that was so fun. The one thing that I learned that I thought was pretty awesome is, because I like the drums, they're so loud and it's super cool. I was told that is the heartbeat of Mother Nature, and that's why you could feel it inside you. So I thought, wow, I learned something that day too. I did attend the game. I watched our co-workers play Bunnock. I do have a game, so you might want to practice throughout the year, perhaps, before the next tournament. That's always fun. I think probably the heat got everybody more than the game, because we haven't been used to the heat yet this year. I also viewed the Recreational Cultural Cost Sharing Committee meeting that my co-workers were at, coffee break with AHS staff, the U of A presentation for Common Ground Initiative. So talking about what is happening with our political partners nationally and internationally on what they're seeing as far as behaviors, treatment, and what we're seeing in regards to other countries and behaviors, I guess, coming up into Canada. I attended the Chamber Business Mixer at the end of the month at the library, and then the Canada Day Parade and events yesterday. That was so much fun. I certainly got my steps in. But it's distracting when you're giving candy to kids. That's the only way to exercise. You just go, and you don't notice that you're doing it. But thousands of people there, everybody smiling faces and happy to be there, just like myself. That's my report.
Thanks for that, Councillor Bosch. Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. City Council in copy with AHS, meeting with U of A Common Ground Initiative, attended a preparation meeting for the National Dictions Week in the fall, enjoyed the Grande Prairie Police Service Experience Officer graduation stakeholder meeting with Council Chambers, Chamber of Commerce, and the 5th annual Bunnock Tournament, Grande Prairie Fire Department's Foundation. It was so much fun. It was very hot. The sun got me, but I really enjoyed playing with our teammates. We all brought different skills to the table, and it was very well organized, and I encourage everyone to get out and enter a team next year. I was lucky enough to spend enough money to win a bike, so it was great. And then the Canada Day Parade was outstanding, and serving cake with Grande Prairie is always a joy. There's more cake on me than the people. It was very enjoyable, and the lineups were long. I'm sure there were at least 20,000 people in the park. I don't know if that's a statistic we can find out about, but there were a lot of people there enjoying themselves, and enjoyed TJ Ruckus and the North Bloods. And that's my report.
Thanks for that, Councillor O'Connor. Councillor Berg, rather.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Clayton. I attended many of the events that have already been mentioned, so I'll just stick to 3 highlights. Grande Prairie Regional Tourism AGM. We elected a new board, or some new board members there at the Philip J. Currie Dinosaur Museum. Brian Grant, CEO of the Grande Prairie Airport, is the new chair. and we're anticipating a very busy and fun summer with Grande Prairie Regional Tourism. I got to give greetings on behalf of the city at the powwow at the Friday night event, and always a wonderful event. And I was talking to some of the organizers about some fun things that I think we can work on to improve. And then the Canada Day Parade, it's my annual jog. I feel like it's my annual marathon that I sign up for, and did okay. And then I served cake from 3 till 6. And then when I went to sleep at about 10, I think I served cake from about midnight to 5 a.m. in my dreams. So, and Councillor O'Connor was right there with me. And again, we were having some fun serving some cake. I think Councillor Bressy is jealous. He was at a different table. Oh, well, we were serving cake with whoever was around. There was a lot of cake. So I understand there still might be some left. And that's my report.
Thanks, Councillor Berg. Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. Yeah, many of the events that I was part of have already mentioned, just the rec and culture meetings we've had with the county. They've been enjoyable, and I do every time want to thank our colleagues on the other side of the conversations we're having. Those aren't easy ones. The experienced officers being sworn in was really cool for the city and a big step, and it was cool to be part of it. And it was interesting to talk to the members that we swore in, of just their excitement of coming to Grande Prairie and being involved was really just continually makes me feel we've made the right decision with that. The opening of the Dots daycare, hearing how they're sold out already with a huge wait list, so it was great to see one daycare open, but just shows us the importance of how many more we need in our community. And then lastly, the Canada Day was lots of fun, and I guess we're all going to talk about cake, but I want to thank Councillor Bosch for keeping it organized on my end. She was a machine in there, so it was fun to work with her. So, and that's my report.
Thanks for that, Councillor Plott. Councillor Blackmore.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I too attended many of the events that have been mentioned. I'm going to just hit on a couple highlights. I attended Maskwa. I met with the Maskwa executive to get an update on where they are with their planning and building process. There's not a lot new in that meeting, so I don't really have anything to share there. I attended a downtown association board meeting. I want to compliment the downtown on the hanging flower baskets. They're going to look great. If we ever get any heat this summer, they're going to really take off and bloom well. And I look forward to that. I did throw bunnocks at Bunnock's, I guess, at the annual Bunnock fundraiser. As I grew up on a horse farm, there's probably some people who'd say it was apropos for me to be at a Bunnock fundraiser. And frighteningly, I think I might get good at it. Frighteningly, because I don't really want to get good at it. But anyway, the Firefighters Charity is indeed a very worthy charity, and particularly valuable to the community, because you don't have to be a registered charity to take advantage of their monies, and so they're able to support individuals in ways that many charities cannot. So I've always been a great cheerleader for the Firefighters Charity. And finally, the Canada Day celebrations yesterday were truly amazing. I know that generally we get 20,000 people in the park for that event, and I've never seen it as crowded as it was yesterday. There were 50 people lineups for absolutely everything, including the toilets. So I think it was a great day and a great celebration, and the fireworks did wake me up once again. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your report, Councillor Blackmore. Many of the items that I participated in have already been mentioned. I did want to thank Aquaterra for hosting the shareholders and having an info sharing session. It was always valuable to learn more of what's happening within that organization. I had an opportunity to attend the Alberta Forest Products Open House, which brought stakeholders from forestry from across the province together with various ministers and stakeholders within the industry. So that was a great conversation. Councillor Reeve Marshall and myself were there. I attended the Electricity Canada Annual Policy Symposium as a speaker on a panel with other elected leaders to talk about the impacts of fire, water, and wind on infrastructure, electricity infrastructure. It was truly an honor to bring greetings on behalf of Council at the Grande Prairie Police Service Experience Officer graduation ceremony. Really another momentous day in our city. Also joined my colleagues with a stakeholder meeting with the Grande Prairie and Region Area Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. It's always great to sit down with them and hear what they're working on, and for them to receive an update of things that we're working on. And the big takeaway for me this year was how aligned our strategic priorities are and our advocacy priorities. So that was a great conversation to hear and see that the Chamber of Commerce and Council are very aligned. 5th Annual Grande Prairie Traditional Powwow. The grand entry, as Councillor Bosch and Councillor Berg and Councillor O'Toole mentioned, is quite an energetic ceremony, and really a privilege to be able to attend and experience. Next year, it'll be the 6th annual, and I strongly encourage people to come out and watch the powwow. It's in the past and to date, it's been free to attend. This year, in addition, they had quite a significant trade show per se next door, where there was excellent vendors where you could buy incredible beadwork and clothing and different sort of. Some were souvenirs, some were clothing that you would wear, some, just really a cultural experience. I really enjoyed browsing through there. The Connecting Dots Daycare, as mentioned by Councillor Plott, great to see that they're well on their way and up and running and waiting for the next opening. And so we'll get an update on that in the very near future, but it's an initiative really brought forward by Council about the dire need of daycare and how it impacts our economy and the growth of our community. And so great to see relatively quick success in that. And so I look forward to having that more formalized update shortly. The cost sharing and recreation and culture cost sharing meetings with our colleagues from the county. I want to thank administration from both sides, the city and the county. So much work goes into this. And, as councillors, we have this opportunity to represent our sort of jurisdiction, and those conversations are impactful for the future of our municipalities, but there is so much work that goes into that. So thank you to everyone who's providing that information for the elected officials and really setting a path for success in the future. As mentioned, actually this one wasn't mentioned. I had the opportunity to attend the naming for the Side Family Center of Entrepreneurial Excellence. So that was really a great moment to see the generosity of the Side family and the legacy that they'll leave within Northwestern Polytechnic, and look forward to hearing more and getting updates in the near future of the incredible initiatives that Northwest Polytech is putting, not only to benefit growth in our region, but to put entrepreneurials on a path of success and really to create a path for youth and in their entrepreneurial spirit. So and you'll see some great things out of that initiative. So I'm looking forward to hearing more on that. Following day, attended the Remembering Al Side ceremony, and as was mentioned, it was there was over 4 hours of incredible stories of what this man has done for not only for our city but for our region, and incredible speakers, great stories, and just a celebration of his life. And in this region, it's one thing that I've come to know over many, many years is how incredibly fortunate we are to have such foundational people that have put our community and our region on a path for success. And people like Mr. Al Side are one of those individuals who really, in so many industry sectors, has impacted not only growth of the region, but growth of people and future businesses. So it was a really special ceremony. I really appreciated the work that administration did to bring council together on a coffee break with AHS. I think it's great initiatives that we continue to do, not only in attraction in healthcare, but in the retention. These relationships that council and other organizations across the community continue to do in that healthcare piece. Some of them are little pieces, but they matter a lot. When you take that time to have coffee with someone, it goes a long way. So I look forward to continued initiatives on those. And last but not least, I wanted to thank the many, many people that were involved in the Canada Day Parade. The parade was, to my knowledge, on my previous 10 years on council, the largest Canada Day Parade I've ever seen. The community was out in full force. And And I think that it's something that we need to recognize as our community continues to grow. As I was looking at people's faces in the audience, there's so many people that are so happy to be part of this community. And in the fact that this parade was created to celebrate what an incredible country that we live in and to be a celebration, I think that it served the purpose for almost everyone there. So I think that the parade as a celebration was a great opportunity. I can say that, as we continue to have events such as this, sometimes organizations have growing pains, and we too will have growing pains, and I think we learn every time we host an event like this. So I look forward to next year's parade. But I also want to mention that the events in Maskwa Park, I've literally never seen as many people in Maskwa Park at one time, which is a great feeling. The numbers of cake pieces that we handed out, the number of people attending the live music, and the number of people just really there enjoying rides and swimming and whatever it may be, is something that we should be proud of. I think that on any given day, you can have a rainy Canada Day, and any given year, rather, you can have a sunny one. And this year, it all came together other than the wind, and so we had a lot of people. And with that, sometimes an event can have some pieces that may have been done better, but you can never foresee what the turnout will be. So I think that our staff and our team hosted an incredible Canada Day event, and look forward to learning from that and it to continue to grow year over year. And with that, the fireworks. We were very fortunate to still be able to have our fireworks. I think that probably they weren't our best display of fireworks that we've ever seen, but considering the limitations of the incredible wind gusts that we were having, I think that our fire department and our fireworks were incredible, and that we were fortunate to be able to have it. So thanks to them, and thanks to the people that put on the fireworks. Considering the conditions, it was an excellent fireworks display. So with that, I will call meeting adjourned and wish you a good evening.